issue was decided as soon as the first batch of numbers came in. A city charter amendment. It was overwhelming, 81% of the people voting in favor of it. It basically comes down to city council vacancies. How should they be filled? It would make it now. So city will hold special elections for city council vacancies occurring in the first 2 years of becoming vacant. Second 2 years would be appointed. Right now, city council appoints regardless. Now, remember in 2023, Vinny Palermo was removed as city councilman after 3 months of unexcused absences while he was awaiting trial on public corruption charges. This city charter is basically considered the Vinny Palermo.